great to have you on the podcast. Great to have two guests. Our listeners will see why that's important later on when we talk about all things gamification. But before we do that, it's always great to speak to a business founder, business owner. So Damien, it's your business, Drimify, and I just would like to hear a little bit about your story and perhaps why and how the business came about.
Okay. Would you like the short version or the long version of the story?
Should we start with the short and then we can expand as we go?
Okay, sounds good. Okay. So it started back in 2006, and we started the business with my business partner Ammonia. We met at school. We met when we were 14 years old, and we've been playing handball together. I don't know if you know handball. It's a sport. It's at the Olympics, but it's not quite famous in the UK, but it's getting there. So we know each other since we were 14, and then we met again after university, and we said, okay, let's try to work together, because he was working in IT and networking, and I was into marketing strategy and graphic design. So we said, okay, let's try to see if we could interact with each other and do something. And we started with small jobs. He was already based in Scotland, because he was finishing his studies in Scotland at Edinburgh Napier University. And I was in France, and we said, okay, let's try to work together. It was working pretty well when we were playing handball. So we had already the team spirit, And so we started with small jobs, and then we started to have medium jobs and then bigger jobs. At some point, we had to start something. We had to start a business. So the good point was he had his finance teacher at uni that was also an accountant. So he was the one helping us, and he got us started basically. And then we started with Dreamlike. So Drimify, it's a product of the Dreamlike agency. So Dreamlike is the agency. It's a digital agency. We've been operating since 2006, doing logo branding, websites, search engine optimization, all sorts of marketing services for any kind of businesses. And then at the same time, we also started a business, a side project, but that's part of Dreamlike, and it was a kids entertainment website. So we had websites in different languages, in 4 different languages, so English, French, German, Spanish, and we were putting games on those websites and exchanging games with other studios. So we were creating games for kids. And we managed to get this up to 16 million views per month. So that was quite big. And at that time, we got big brands approaching us, like Disney, Mattel, Hasbro, Sony, telling us, guys, you've got a good reach, you've got a big audience. So now we would like you to create games, but where you will be putting our products in it. So product placement. So that's how we got started in the, I would say, games and gamification industry. It was back in 2007, so 15 years ago. And those brands, so we've been creating more than 300 games for us and for them. And from there, we started thinking, okay, now we are creating always the same games again and again, for example, quizzes or, small casual games. And we said there must be a way to mutualize all this and make it a platform. So we could stop creating those games from scratch all the time, even if we had small frameworks, but it was not a platform where it's a plug and play. So we said, okay, let's start a platform. So first we said, okay, how could we make quizzes quicker? So we started by creating the quizzes on the platform, and then, okay, now let's do this, now let's do that. And now we've got more than 20 different games available on the platform, and we're adding more every quarter. So it's just how it started and how Drimify started from Dreamlike. But we've been merging our marketing expertise with our gamification expertise, and that's how we ended up creating Drimify.
Brilliant.
So it was it was the long version, in fact, sorry.
It's interesting, isn't it, though? But even when you listen to your story there, it's how the dots join up to get to where you are today. Because I'd imagine you never would have imagined you'd have the business you've got now with the kind of the agency side, the gamification side, that when you started out, when it was just the two of you founding the business. I mean, what does it feel like now to be at this stage in the journey?
I think, you would need to ask Munia as well, but I think for us, it's like living a dream. It's like, that's our business. We created it. We kind of decided what we could be doing every day. I don't feel like I'm working. Every morning I start my day and I'm like, okay, let's do my stuff. But even if it's a business, at the end of the day, I think we really enjoy what we do. And it's also in line with our company's value, like with Drimify or with Dreamlike. We want to be like innovative, playful, driven. And that's our values. And I think we are embracing them. So for me, I don't feel like I'm working every day. It's more like I do my what I love. So I think that's one of the luxury of being an entrepreneur.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I see from the website you've got offices in the UK, in France, in New York. I mean, does that give the business some challenges, or does it just create opportunity?
It's more like a presence. It's in France and in the US. It's a presence. It's not like proper offices. Like the headquarters is in Edinburgh in Scotland, in the UK. So so that's where we are based. But we've got people from I would say all over the world working with us. We've got a developer in South Africa. Our accountant is in Australia. We've got people like a bit everywhere. Even in Scotland, we've got someone in Glasgow. Chris is in Edinburgh. We are in South Edinburgh. We've got someone in Newcastle. Developers in France. So it's since the start, and that's part of the Dreamlike DNA. We've been operating remotely. So we didn't wait for COVID to start working from home and working remotely. So it was like even back in 2006 when we started the business, Munia was in Scotland, I was in France. That's how we started. So for us, it's completely normal and completely natural to just try to find the talents where they are and not tell them, okay, guys, now you all have to move in Edinburgh. You all have to go in this office every day. Like, just be who you are, do whatever you want. As long as the work is done, that's what matters.
Brilliant. Great culture to have. And again, I suppose, so post-COVID and everybody's talking about hybrid working, by the sounds of it, that's been in your DNA for over 16 years now. And I suppose it leads on to a question around what are some of the lessons that you've learned from working in that kind of remote hybrid way that perhaps others listening to this conversation could benefit from?
So I'm gonna try to give advice, but it's always hard to apply them. But it's first, I think it's trusting the people you are working with. So you have to trust them and make sure like they know what to do. Hopefully they know what you expect from them. And so it's trust, I think the first thing. And also set expectations. So trying to give as much guidance as possible to make sure that people are all operating towards the same direction. Like we are all, again, like I'm going back to the sports team and like the team spirit. We are a team, like in the company. I don't think that there is like any hierarchy like or structure. It's more like a flat structure in the company. Everybody is working every day on the same project. And I hope, I expect that we are all aligned towards the same goals, like being the main gamification platform in the world. So my advice would be just like to trust people, make sure you are giving targets and sharing the goals. That's really important for even like the company culture, like just telling people what you are trying to achieve and share your mission.
Brilliant. Fantastic. Love that. Maybe if we get time at the end, I want to come back and maybe talk to you about, teamwork and that transition from teams, sporting teams to the working environment. But, we have chosen a subject, hence why the two of your guests are on this episode. And it's all about gamification. So as the gamification experts, Chris and Damien, I suppose the first thing is it's clear that you're passionate about gamification. And how it can impact and have a real benefit on all sorts of businesses and in different aspects of business. But for those who don't know, is there a simple kind of definition of what is gamification?
Yes, it's kind of exactly what it sounds like, to be honest. I mean, I think most of your listeners will have participated in some form of gamification without realizing that's what it was called. It's basically anything with like game-like mechanics where they're applied to typically like less fun or playful kind of activities. So think about, corporate training or like onboarding processes, recruitment, even like things like marketing as well. Like whenever you play games where you can win prizes with brands, in the simplest form, it's adding like progress bars and points to sort of like, I guess, rudimentary activities just to encourage people towards that desired outcome. So, if that's fostering competition in your sales team or, encouraging people to keep streaks going, if you think about it in like the fitness space as well, or even like language learning, like with, Duolingo and stuff. But basically a gamified experience allows people to kind of experiment in a sort of more risk-free environment, if that makes sense.
No, that makes sense. And I suppose one of the things you said just sort of resonates. I suppose in the business world, gamification has probably existed forever and a day, particularly, and the one example you gave, Chris, would be in the sales world where people have sales tables, and they've probably always had it, even before IT and technology. It was always there. It's just we probably didn't recognize it at the time.
The root principles of gamification, think about the school system with like, getting your stars and, moving up into like a higher set in maths or whatever. It's all like programmed into us and how we operate. I mean, how do you learn before you go to school? You play, you copy your parents and, play at being an adult until it's time to do it for real. So, I mean, the possibilities of like applying gamification, the various functions, it's kind of limitless.
Yeah, definitely. And so where does gamification sit alongside competitiveness then? I mean, do they go hand in hand or are they different?
That's one of the key kind of, if you look at like the game mechanics, like you got to appeal to like things like people's like desire for like discovery and a natural curiosity. But yeah, a big one is competitiveness. If you make something, who doesn't want to win? No one wants to be a loser, So as soon as you make something a game, people are like, I can't let him beat me. I can't let her beat me. Everyone wants to win.
The good point about gamification is that applied to marketing or human resources, it's still always applied on a positive way. It's always quite positive, and in terms of communication, if you use gamification through marketing games or online contests for marketing, it's gonna enhance your brand and the way people can see your brand. And if you use it for human resources, yes, it will bring competitiveness, but it will always be like in a positive way, like creating team building and things like that.
Brilliant. Yeah, and I thought it would be quite good to just go on and talk about, I think, some of those specifics, because I'm fascinated already, is, and maybe if we could put a kind of real life example or a case study in here about maybe how you've seen and you've developed gamification and applied it to a company's marketing campaign. Is there, one case study that you've got that you think that's the standout one?
Yeah, okay. So can you just confirm that we could record for the next 3 hours? Or
That's confidence in gamification.
Yeah.
Well, remember his short version of the history of the company.
Yeah.
So
again, like as Chris said, it's limitless. We can like, just to give you an example, like a campaign we just finished after Christmas. It was for a retail fashion company. It's called Drimify. It's back in France, but it is similar to H&M or Zara, for example. So we created for them an instant win game mechanic, but it was on a Phygital way. So, Chris, do you want to explain Phygital maybe?
Yeah, is Phygital something you've come across yourself?
No, it's not a term I've heard. When I was doing the research and we were talking about it.
So I'm just going to throw another kind of like slightly annoying term, but like if you think about retailers, they're pretty much all now either on an omni-channel kind of platform or striving towards being omni-channel, or in some state, like the frictional stages of kind of perfecting it. And that's where like you're making the most of your online presence, but you're also benefiting from having that physical store and that sort of human touch. And it's making like the connection between the two of them seamless. The example I'll give, I mean, if you go back to sort of like the mid to early noughties, where you could go into a store, an item would be so much. You go onto their website and it's cheaper because they're shipping out of the Isle of Man and the taxes are different or whatever. So it's getting rid of that kind of, it's making those entities like the same and benefiting from like, the speed and the convenience of your online presence, but not losing that sort of bricks and mortar, that sort of like actual connection with like where you're actually at. So like a phygital marketing strategy would basically be to like offer like games or, experiences that are going to encourage people to go to the store. It's making that connection between the two of them.
Yeah, it's bridging the gap between physical and digital. So that's why it's called Phygital.
It's my new word of the day. I like this word. Phygital, right.
But you will see it coming more and more. So it's like, if I just give like simple examples on both sides, it would be start your campaign with an online contest or with a game on your social media pages. And from the social media pages, you can tell people, try to play and win. And from there, you tell them if you want to have another chance, or if you want to win more, or if you want to win bigger prizes, now come in store and play again to the same game. So it's like teasing people online to get them in store. So it's called web to store or drive to store. And the opposite can happen as well. It's like you go you go in store, you go for your shopping in Asda, for example, and you buy something. And from there, it will tell you, okay, now scan this QR code, go online and play a game.
Yeah.
So that's how you bridge the gap between the two.
I've seen, you've seen particularly on consumer products, food, drinks products.
That's it,
You see that quite often now. So, okay, that's a great example. Yeah. So going back, so what did you do this campaign pre-Christmas in France for the retailer?
Yeah. So it was like a great campaign. So they wanted, I'm sure like McDonald's, when they are doing like the Monopoly campaign, where you can peel on the products and try to win something. So they've been trying to copycat this one, but in a different way. So it was, you go in store and you could buy your gloves or your hat or like winter accessories. But when you buy them, they are in a box, like a fast food packaging. So, for example, you get the burger box, you open it, and you've got like your gloves in it. So it was a way to get people engaged by telling them, now all of our shops are transforming into restaurants. So it was like to make a point, a marketing point. And from there, when you get there, you get the gloves in the burger box. You could open it, and inside it, you had a scratch card, so a physical scratch card. So you scratch it, and then you are getting a code. And from this code, you could scan a QR code, use the unique code you got on the scratch card, and play an instant win online directly on the website. So again, it's back to the phygital aspect, where you buy a product in real life, and then you get a digital experience from it. And from the digital experience, the instant win, you could be winning a trip to New York, smartphones, like a lot of big prize, also smaller prize, and also gift cards to be spent on the shop. So you go in the shop, you go online, and you could be back in the shop again. So that's how you do it.
Right, which is really interesting, because already this conversation has taken a slightly change in direction, because I thought we'd be having a very tech-heavy kind of conversation, but actually what you're both talking about is a lot of things happening online, but in the real world. And does that apply across gamification? Even if we'll talk about some specifics about employee engagement, maybe, or human resources, or whatever it may be, in a moment. But does that apply across the board? Is it something you try and introduce when at Drimify you're developing gamification? This kind of digital thing, is that a core offering?
No. I think it's just down to the roots and down to human nature. As Chris said, playing is part of the human nature. So that's why even if we are not pushing towards phygital, or we are not trying to tell you, okay, gamification in the digital world is especially connected to the physical world. It's just like it becomes natural, just because that's the way it is.
Chris, you also, as an organization, gamify events. So how do you go about gamifying kind of events?
Well, I dare say you've been to a few gamified events yourself. So, I mean, I'm going to kind of come at this from two different angles, because the the variety of ways you can gamify an event, again, I keep using the word limitless, but they are. So let's say, for example, when you go to like, you know, like a corporate event, it's quite awkward at the start, isn't it? Everyone, you kind of meeting all these people.
Yeah, everybody, who do I know? What do I know? Yeah.
But like, you know, you put some kind of games involved and then suddenly people are on teams or they're working together or they're competing. You know, you've got like some QR codes they've got to scan. It turns into like a treasure hunt. Or, you know, I guess if you think about an escape room, for an example, you know, it breaks the ice. So that's one way you can come at it. But then if you also think about when you're at, say, like a trade show, you're competing. I mean, you've got a captive audience, but everyone's turned up and they're all bringing their A game to try and compete for that audience attention. And this is something that I guess applies beyond just events, but we'll talk about in events for specifically. You know, if people can come over to your booth and you're not just, you know, on a soapbox, you know, hammering them with your message, they can like scan a QR code, or, you know, they already know about the game and it's a treasure hunt, or, you know, there's lots of quizzes and there's opportunities for that to help them interact with what your message is, like whether you're selling a product, etc.
Even yeah, like just spinning a wheel, we've got like all those instant win games that can be displayed on big screens or even like on big TVs, and people can come, and that's a way to attract people on your booth. You know, like as Chris said, you are competing with maybe 200 other businesses that are there to show their products. So you have to create the event inside the event. So that's where gamification can help you spark the interest. You know, like let's say you've got your booth and you've got a big screen or a big touch screen. You know, like you've got those ones that are huge now in the shape of an iPhone, the real size. You know, and so if on there you've got a spin the wheel or a game mechanic, people will queue to play this game. And when they queue, you know, they can also, as Chris said, scan a QR code to play another type of game. So you can also have, you can rely on one game to create the event, but you can also have multiple experiences. And that's why you go further with gamification. It's when you engage people in your own storytelling. Storytelling is really at the heart of gamification. Yes, you want to push your marketing message across, but the main thing is to tell your story, because that's what people will remember.
Just jumping in there as well, actually, when you do go to those big trade shows, you know, say you have got 200 people pitched up. When you leave, how many of them do you remember?
Yeah,
probably less than 5, mate. Yeah, exactly.
And
if one of them delivered an experience, and you know it hyped you up and it got you excited, who are you going to remember? Yeah. That'll be one of them.
It won't be the one that gave you the free pen, will it? It'll be the one that did give you an experience and that kind of human interaction.
I've got a lot of those pens actually, and I couldn't tell you what's written on half of them.
Or it could be the one giving you the free pen, but to get the free pen, you've been scratching something, or you've been spinning a wheel, and this will be your favorite pen then.
I suppose I've got a follow-on question, and I suppose it's do you think there is a risk in that kind of marketing and events world that gamification can just become a distraction and the core message can be lost? And how do you keep the core message being understood by the person interacting?
Just by customizing everything and by making it personalized as much as you can. Yes, for sure, you could have a spin the wheel on with 3 different companies, but the way they will bring it, the way they will design it, the kind of message they could put before the game experience, because that's something you need to understand. We are not just here to entertain people. Everything we do, we've got a specific target, specific objective behind it. So when we create a game, the game is the excuse to make it memorable and engaging. But first, what we want is to deliver the message from the company. So let's say you go on Drimify and you create your own game and customize it. You don't just customize the game itself. You can also have like intermediate screens before and after the game experience, where you will be passing your message, and all this can be adapted to your brand guidelines, to your design. So that's where it's like I always compare gamification to newsletters or to emailing, because I think that's it works hand in hand. But when you send we are receiving like 200 newsletters per month, let's say, but you will remember some of them because they will be tweaked, they will be personalized for you. And gamification is just the same. Yes, it's a platform. Yes, you can use existing game mechanics, but then, as we said since the start, creativity is the limit. So you can go as far as you want and make it your own to make sure that your message comes across without being generic.
Okay, yeah, fully understand. And so we've probably so far talked about things in terms of gamification that I would understand, which is, how I might interact as a consumer, how I might attend an event, a conference or an exhibition. But I'm also interested to discuss about how gamification can be used inside of an organization, particularly around employee engagement and improving engagement and employee satisfaction. How does that come about?
So I think maybe I'll start off on this one and just talk about like the concept of like employer branding. So, I think anyone running a business just now knows that the recruitment market, I don't think, has ever been quite as tough on both sides, from an applicant point of view and from a recruiter point of view. And again, it's another area where you're competing for potential quality applicants' attention. So again, being able to deliver an experience that sets your brand apart and aligns with your values. It's like what Damien was saying earlier. It's all about storytelling. So, if you can deliver that engaging experience, through like a gamified recruitment process, it makes you look, you can control the content, and it makes you look more attractive, more innovative, more, just a bit sexier, really, doesn't it?
Yeah, I suppose it's I like that. I get it then. I get that, particularly in the recruitment process, is we're all competing for the same talent, and it's a very limited talent pool. And if we can do something that makes us different, but as long as it reflects, I assume, our culture, our values, and what we do, then actually it makes us the attractive proposition. And again, I suppose it comes back to, if they're applying to 2 or 3 different businesses, we're the one that they remember.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we've got like a good example for the banking industry. So we created an experience for employer branding and recruitment, but it was not like about the recruitment process itself. It was more like for people to get to know what the company was about. So it's a bank. It's a big group. We created what we call a dynamic path. So it's an experience made of multiple steps that's available on Drimify, and so each step was a different kind of game, and each step was explaining something different about the company. So we were starting with a quiz about the banking industry. Then there was like a memory game where you flip cards and you are finding icons, giving you some aspects of the company, like the different kind of jobs that were available. So it was not to send people directly to the recruitment portal. It was just for them to discover. And this experience was made of 6 steps, and it was across 6 weeks. So each week you are getting a new step. And for the company, it was a way to also communicate every week on LinkedIn and on social media in general. And when you run a campaign with one game, you are quite limited. You can do like a couple of weeks, but you will quickly like run in circle in terms of communication. But when you've got an experience with 6 different steps, 6 different games, and you are explaining different things, keeps you communicating longer. So so people could discover with each step like the different values of the company. Then there was a game with words. So you have to find a word in a grid, and the words in this grid were the company values. So again, you are trying to explain, you are trying to educate the candidates before they even apply. So you just want to tell them, okay, this is who we are, this is what we do. If you like it, come and apply for a job with us. And that was the main point. And those kind of campaigns are really appealing because they give like a different angle of communication. It's more innovative. And there was also, as part of it, it was also like a contest. So people that were playing from step 1 to step 6, each step was giving points. So back to gamification, ranking, and leaderboards. And at the end, the people from the top 100, there was a prize draw to win iPads.
Okay.
So it's another way like to engage even more people.
Yeah, brilliant.
I think just another point I think that's worth making on the sort of the recruitment side of it. Using games, like it's a really good way to kind of test like as well as culture, like aptitude and ability. Like it's a lot of work going through CVs and covering letters and trying to make those value judgments, whereas actually give someone the opportunity to show you, you can really shorten the hiring cycle, you know.
It is, and actually, you know, one of the things I've always, in the businesses I've grown and run and developed, is, always recruit on aptitude, because, you know, the technical stuff, as long as they've got some of the relevant qualifications and they've got an ability to learn, you can teach that. But the aptitude and attitude is unique, isn't it? And most organisations want those people with the right aptitude and attitudes that fit their organisation. And I can see, gamification would work, wouldn't it? And you could develop the game, and you could, put in the right talent that suited your organisation. Have you seen other kind of, as the world is developing at such a quick pace, you know, we've talked about how it can be used in terms of employee engagement, recruitment, we've talked about events, marketing, but, you know, technology is also moving on. Is there other ways in perhaps that you're seeing gamification now being deployed that, you know, that excites you as being in that industry?
We can see that is getting more and more into cryptocurrencies and blockchain as well. So all the cards, you know, like, I don't know if you know Sorare, it's like the Panini cards of the new world, you know, like where when we are collecting like football players as stickers to put them in albums. So now it's all digital. So that's proper gamification. Then if you look at even like cryptocurrency and blockchain in general, they are trying to gamify everything just because it brings more engagement.
I mean, it's going into crypto and NFTs as well. I mean, all that stuff just exists in this digital world anyway. So and it's worth as much as people think it is. So applying like game-like mechanics just makes it that more engaging. And, you know, you read about all kinds of like kind of really interesting examples of how, like, you know, like buying virtual plots of land and like, I don't know, feeding and breeding virtual animals or whatever. Like, it's really like like the whole concept of like crypto and NFTs just lends itself to being like, you know, gamified.
Same with the VR, virtual reality and augmented reality. Like we saw like a crazy example last week about BMW. Yeah, Chris, if you want to.
So like,
quickly,
I don't know if you saw this. So I think it was like an event last year, wasn't it, Damien? And like where they actually had it, where you turn the car, you're driving the car, but you're on like a real track, but you're wearing like a headset, so you're seeing like this augmented, like much more exciting, almost Tron-like kind of world that you're driving through, but the car's the controller, so it's just like, I don't know, like it's, I mean, you obviously need like a racetrack to go and
This is,
wow. If you think, the thing is as well, like, all modern smartphones are basically equipped for augmented reality anyway. So, like, you know, I mean, that's what Pokemon Go was that kicked off like a few years ago.
Okay.
You know,
Of course it was. Yeah,
that's one of the best examples. Yeah,
brilliant.
So but as we said, gamification and the use of games to get things done was there before us, and it will be there after us. You know, so it's not just like games are. Playing is so part of our nature that it will just apply to everything in life.
And I suppose, like you say, it is in our DNA. I suppose as an organisation, how do you keep up with what's happening in terms of, you know, we talked about augmented reality, you know, the metaverse and AI, and how that's going to apply in future? Because, you know, for the brands to come and engage with you, they want to see that they're at the forefront of that curve. So one of your challenges must be, how do you, like I say, just keep it ahead of the curve and understand how all this new technology that's coming out at such a rapid rate can apply to gamification?
It's reading a lot, like it's being aware of the market as well, and it's also running a lot of research and development on our side. So that's what we've been doing for the past 10 years, research and development, to always try to be on the edge of things. So sometimes we were starting like small projects on the side, trying to see if it was viable. And but then even like big companies, when you look at Google, even Google, they are starting new projects all the time, but they are also shutting down projects all the time. So the same applies to us. Like, we are trying to stay aware of what's going on and what people want, and we are trying to bring innovation as much as we can.
And it must be a fun part of the role as well, I suppose. If you're, into tech and into gamification, then just being able to play and see and experiment must be, part of the joy of what you do.
Yeah, it depends for who, because sometimes when we start a brief and we start talking about it with the developers, they're like, "Are you kidding me? Are you sure that you want to do that?" So yeah, it depends on which angle you are at.
Definitely. And I suppose, one of the things I want to talk about is obviously a lot of some of the examples, but looking on your website, a lot of gamification, that engagement and deployment is done by big corporates, isn't it? So, how accessible is the use of gamification to, the small, medium-sized, owner-managed, entrepreneurial entities?
That's our core mission. It's to make it affordable and available to everyone. So that's why we created Drimify. So yes, you're right. Big corporations are always the first one to come and try, because they've got the budget to do it. They've got they want to do it because they want to innovate as well. So our first few clients were big companies because they've got dedicated people for innovation. So those guys are really attentive, and they are trying to find the new stuff before the competitors. So yes, they are leading the thing, but at the same time, the fact that we created Drimify as a gamification platform is to make it affordable for everyone. So we've got obviously, I'm not gonna come with my sales pitch just now, but you can go on the website and you will find that you've got like really small monthly or even like on-demand offers, and then you've got like premium offers where you've got like more capabilities, more features. But yeah, with Drimify, at least we wanted to make it available to everyone and to empower any business or any freelance or any person in the world to be able to create a game in a matter of minutes and customize it to its brand.
Brilliant, thank you. And I suppose maybe Chris, one for you as the kind of gamification expert, as I've built you on this podcast, where do you see and foresee gamification in, say, the next 5-10 years? What's the direction of travel?
I think that's a question for Damien.
Oh, okay.
Oh, quite honestly.
But you know about it because you are online with the...
I know.
Yeah. No, as we said, it's being like at least for gamification and Drimify, it's to be the worldwide reference. And then for gamification, we hope and we expect is gonna be like mass market a bit more than what it is at the moment, because as you said, at the moment it's like specific to big businesses that want to go further with marketing and communication. But yeah, we would like gamification and games to be part of almost every single marketing campaign or every single human resources campaign as well, just because it works so well that it's a shame that people are not using it this much.
I suppose I'm going to lead on with a question there. When you say people aren't using it as much, what do you think the resistance is to using gamification?
It's like a lot of people ask, like, what is gamification?
Yeah,
that
was my first question.
And it's it's a question that you see people argue over the answer to as well sometimes, and they sort of overcomplicate it with trying to taxonomize all the different sort of variations of it. But yeah, I think just understanding that it's a process, right? Because I think it's one of those things, you recognize it when you see it, but you don't necessarily understand it. And I think it's just being able to put the dots together. I think, would you agree, Damien? If people understand it, then it's the resistance disappears.
And understand it and also know it, and that's why we are also for us it's good to be like in this kind of podcast, just because we want to spread the word. We need people to know about it, because how many times per week we are getting people saying, "Oh, I just discovered your platform and it's amazing. I didn't know it was on the market, blah, 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 blah." So we are the first one being amazed and about the fact that people are finding Drimify and are saying, "Oh, it's crazy, it's amazing. Now I can give like another dimension to my campaigns." So yeah, so it's just like people to know about it, for us like to keep spreading the word. And yeah, and it's already part of our everyday life, but people don't realize, as Chris said. So yeah, we just need to keep going.
Yeah, so I think there's as well maybe like sometimes a bit of a resistance to like the idea of like playing being productive, like particularly in kind of workplace environments as well. So I think it's just, but I mean, you see like work cultures changing like kind of across different industries now as people see the advantages.
It's interesting. We had about probably 4-6 weeks ago, a lady called Emma Worrell come on as a podcast guest. And her thing is all about fun and introducing play into the workplace. And that's about culture and all of those kind of things. And I think this podcast follows really neatly because it's about that piece around how do you actually then bring play using technology into everything you do as an organization.
Yeah, and if we go back at the start of the discussion, if you remember when we were talking about kids, like kids to learn something, if you get them to learn something while they play, it will be much more efficient. So the same applies to us. Like adults are just big kids, and is the same. Like if you are in a company and someone is sending you a 20 pages Word document that you've got to read, you're not gonna read it. But if you send the same message but through a game, the conversion rate will be like times 10.
Put it this way, every time you get, say, like a new piece of software that you need to figure out how to use for your job, what's the expression that you drop? Like, oh, I'll have a play around with it. I say, figure it out.
Yeah. Brilliant. I've got this feeling, we're recording this on a Friday, I'm going to walk around all weekend seeing gamification in the real world everywhere I go now.
Oh, you will.
So it's been a great conversation. It's great to get more informed about gamification and how it applies in so many different ways. If people want to connect with the two of you, learn more about Drimify and gamification, where can they go?
They can go on the website, so drimify.com, and also on LinkedIn. We are on LinkedIn, so that would be the best place to engage and to start a conversation.
Brilliant. Thank you both for being great guests on the Evolve to Succeed podcast.
Thank you.
Thanks for being a great host. It's been a pleasure.
Drimify.